Okay, let's jump right into this explainer. We're looking at a massive, literally structural shift in how the global economy buys goods and services. For decades now, our society has relied heavily on a model of consumption that is, frankly, pushing our planet to its absolute limits. But right now, we're standing at a really profound crossroads. The decisions we make today about how we source and purchase goods are going to dictate our entire future. Are we going to choose environmental degradation, or are we finally pivoting toward resilience? So let's unpack exactly how we got here, and honestly, more importantly, let's talk about the incredible lever we have to fix it. So, here's the big inciting question we really have to ask ourselves. Did COVID-19 permanently break our global supply chains? Well, when the global lockdowns hit, completely freezing the movement of millions of people practically overnight, it did something else entirely. It acted like a giant magnifying glass. The crisis exposed just how deeply fragile our global linear supply systems actually are. We suddenly saw in real time how vulnerable an economy is when it's just totally reliant on constant resource extraction and continuous waste production. It proved for sure that our traditional ways of doing business simply aren't resilient enough to handle global shocks without causing some pretty devastating economic and social catastrophes. Because of that, we're now moving away from the old linear model. You know the one: take, make, dispose. It's basically a one-way street straight to resource depletion, where we just mine raw materials, process them into products, and then throw them away. Instead, we have to embrace a circular model: make, use, restore, or regenerate. In this system, it's like a giant puzzle, where everything is designed to keep resources in use, drastically reducing waste at every single stage. We're moving from a purely transactional model to a truly regenerative one. And honestly, this is the urgent crossroads humanity is facing right this minute. Now, to actually make that shift from linear to circular, we need a mechanism, right? And that brings us to circular procurement. I know it sounds a bit like dry bureaucratic jargon, but stick with me here. Circular procurement is simply the process of purchasing goods and services in a way that achieves closed energy and material loops while minimizing and ideally completely eliminating negative environmental impacts and waste across their whole life cycle. You should think of it not just as some boring purchasing strategy, but really as the powerful engine we need for a resilient, low-carbon economic recovery. It's all about designing out waste from the very second we decide we need to buy something. Zooming out to a macro level, our post-pandemic recovery flows directly into some major policy initiatives, like the European Union Green Deal and its Circular Economy Action Plan. And what's the ultimate destination on this timeline? Making Europe entirely climate neutral by 2050. That's a huge goal. And circular procurement is the primary vehicle driving us straight toward that 2050 target. It prioritizes resource efficiency while building a highly competitive economy, all at the exact same time. Now, you might be thinking the public sector is just there to regulate things, but actually, they are a massive economic actor. In OECD countries, public sector demand accounts for roughly 19% of the total gross domestic product. That is a staggering slice of the economic pie. When a single entity controls that much of the market demand, it goes way beyond simple administration. It actually holds the power to completely reshape market trends. That 19% represents what we call the ultimate purchasing power. It acts as a massive lever. Think about it. When public authorities decide to integrate circular economy principles into their procurement practices, when they start demanding products that are reusable, repairable, and sustainably sourced, they basically dictate new terms to the entire market. They force suppliers to innovate and adopt circular business models if they want any chance at winning those massive, lucrative public contracts. And when the public sector really flexes that 19% muscle, they can shift the entire market towards sustainability. By systematically applying circular procurement to major areas like public transport, the health sector, and the construction industry, the government is laying down brand new ground rules. And here's why this matters to all of us. This market shift doesn't just protect the environment. It actually protects businesses, secures jobs, and heavily supports small and medium-sized enterprises by creating a really stable, predictable demand for innovative, low-carbon solutions. Section 3, Strategic Drivers, Pulling the Lever for Change. So, adopting this circular strategy, it's completely non-negotiable. And it's driven by 3 core pillars: economic, environmental, and social. Notice how this single strategy actually solves multiple global crises simultaneously. Economically, it leads to major job creation and efficiency. Environmentally, it drives us straight towards zero waste. And socially, it vastly improves human health and well-being. It's a fully inclusive approach to some of our most pressing global challenges. Let's look a little closer at each of these drivers. Economically speaking, the potential here is absolutely massive. We see lower total costs of ownership right off the bat, simply because products last longer and require fewer replacements. We also see the creation of entirely new revenue streams through innovative models like leasing and renting instead of just buying outright. But honestly, the most staggering projection is the job creation. Expanding the European circular economy could create somewhere between 1.2 and 3 million new jobs by 2030. Because circular models are more labor-intensive and require incredibly innovative product design, it practically turns sustainability into a major economic booster. Next up, we have the environmental drivers. By setting strict circular requirements, we minimize the extraction of virgin natural resources. We also drastically lower greenhouse gas emissions, because let's face it, producing with recycled materials or opting for renewable energy during production requires significantly less energy than starting from scratch every single time. And crucially, we achieve zero waste. In a true circular supply chain, waste is really just considered a resource that's being used inefficiently. When there's literally no waste, there's no need for landfills. And considering landfills are a major contributor to climate change, that is a massive win.
Finally, we absolutely cannot overlook the human element here. Our old linear habits are directly connected to biodiversity loss, which circles right back to impact our own health and the stability of our communities. The excessive pressure we put on animal habitats and the heavy pollution from industrial waste lead to some very serious health challenges. By restoring environmental balance through circular procurement, we actively improve human health, we bring stability back to our communities, and we even help reduce poverty through the creation of those millions of new jobs and better incomes we were just talking about.
I really want you to reflect on this quote from Mahatma Gandhi for a second. The world has enough for everyone's needs, but not everyone's greed. Our long-term, totally insatiable consumption has deeply disturbed the balance of our planet. Just to put that into perspective, it currently takes the Earth almost 1.5 years to regenerate what we consume in a single year. That's wild. This quote just perfectly contrasts our past linear greed with the harmonious, resource-efficient future we're now required to build. We have to find a way to reconcile our economy with the planet.
So, as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a pretty provocative question to chew on today. Does your organization prioritize short-term economic gains over long-term environmental survival? Look, the public sector might be the ultimate purchasing power, but every single business, every supply chain, and every consumer plays a critical role in demanding circularity. We have the tools right now to reverse the consequences of a linear economy. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Now it's time to review your own supply chains and, well, join the circle.